Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a massive tech buzzword that you literally hear absolutely everywhere, but, you might still feel just a little bit foggy on. We are demystifying cloud computing. Let's find out exactly what it is, how it works under the hood, and why it's completely transformed the digital world.
But before we get into the technical weeds here, let me ask you a simple yet kind of profound question. When you upload a photo from your phone or stream a movie, where does that data actually live? It's not just magically floating in the sky, right? It lives on physical servers somewhere. But the way you access it and the way those servers are managed, well, that is where the magic happens.
So let's look at the formal definition. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources, things like computing power, storage, and databases, over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. The absolutely crucial words here are on-demand and pay-as-you-go. You aren't buying massive servers to just sit gathering dust in a closet anymore. You're essentially renting exactly what you need right when you need it, and you only pay for what you actually use.
Here is our roadmap for today. First up, what is the cloud? Second, inside cloud architecture. Third, the 3 service models. And finally, why choose the cloud?
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1. What is the cloud?
Okay, let's dive into this. When we talk about cloud systems, it's really easy to think of them as abstract and formless, but they're incredibly structured, highly engineered environments. Cloud architecture isn't just one big monolithic block of code, it's an amalgamation of 2 major design principles: event-driven architecture, or EDA, and service-oriented architecture, or SOA. What this actually means in plain English is that the cloud is built out of modular, independent services that react dynamically to events, like you clicking a button or a massive sudden spike in user traffic. It's built from the ground up to be incredibly flexible.
Moving right along to Section 2, Inside Cloud Architecture.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the whole system is divided. Now that we know it's a flexible, service-oriented system, it's time to look inside the proverbial machine. It's a clear 2-part structure, separated by the internet. You've got the front end on top and the back end on the bottom. It's just a clean split between what you, the user, interact with and what the cloud provider manages behind the scenes.
So comparing them directly, the front end is the visible side. It's your client infrastructure, your laptop, your mobile phone, or your web browser providing the graphical user interface. It's relatively simple. The back end, however, well, that's the actual cloud managed by the provider. This is the heavy lifter. It houses the applications, the runtime environments for virtual machines, the massive storage arrays, the security protocols, and the management controls that allocate resources. The back end is literally doing 99% of the work, while your front end just asks for and displays the results.
On to Section 3, the 3 service models. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the pyramid structure. Because if that's how it's built technically, how do you actually rent it? Think of the cloud like a giant skyscraper. Depending on what you need, you can rent the raw concrete floors, a finished room with utilities, or a fully furnished luxury apartment. The pyramid moves from IaaS at the base to PaaS in the middle and SaaS at the very top. As you move up, the cloud provider takes on more and more responsibility, making it way easier for different types of users to consume the services without needing deep technical expertise. Let's start right at the foundation with IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service. This is where you're renting foundational computing resources, the servers, the storage, the networks, on a pay-as-you-go basis. It's primarily used by IT architects and network admins. Instead of buying physical hardware for a company data center, they rent it virtually. This allows for amazing dynamic scaling. They can instantly spin up 100 new servers for a huge holiday promotion and then just shut them down when it's over, only paying for the exact hours they used.
Moving one step up, we have PaaS, or Platform as a Service. This model is aimed directly at application developers. PaaS provides a scalable environment with a high level of abstraction. Basically, it acts as the plumbing and wiring of our skyscraper analogy. Developers don't have to worry about configuring the underlying servers, updating operating systems, or tracking how much memory they're using. The cloud provider handles all that core infrastructure, so the developers can just focus on what they do best: writing and deploying great code. A classic example of this is Google App Engine.
And finally, at the peak of the pyramid, we have SaaS, or Software as a Service. This is the fully furnished apartment. These are fully managed applications accessed entirely via web portals, designed for everyday end users. You don't have to install, update, or maintain anything. Think about how we used to buy boxed software on CD-ROMs. Now, you just open a web browser to access your email, your documents, or your CRM tools. The provider handles absolutely the whole shebang, from the hardware to the software updates.
So the crucial point is mapping out exactly who controls what, because it reveals a massive shift. In IaaS, the consumer controls the databases, servers, and virtual machines, while the provider just handles the raw physical hardware and data centers. In PaaS, the consumer only controls their custom apps and data, while the provider takes over the provisioning and core infrastructure. And when we reach SaaS, the consumer has virtually no administrative control. They just log in and use it, while the provider has total control over all the application services. The burden of maintenance completely shifts to the provider as you move up the models.
Which brings us to Section 4, Why Choose the Cloud? We've seen what it is, how it's structured, and how it's packaged. But why are massive global enterprises and solo developers alike making this huge shift away from local computing? Well, the advantages are undeniable. First is cost efficiency. You drastically reduce massive capital expenditures. No more buying millions of dollars of servers up front. You just pay for operating costs. Next is scalability. You can instantly scale resources up during massive traffic spikes and just as easily scale them down to save money. Then there's reliability and disaster recovery. Cloud providers distribute your data across multiple geographic zones, ensuring high availability even if a whole region goes offline. Add in centralized, enterprise-grade security and simplified management with modular system updates, and honestly, it's a no-brainer. The old days of maintaining a dusty, expensive, localized server room are practically over.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've gone from physical hardware bolted to the floor to on-demand, flexible digital resources accessible from literally anywhere on Earth. With the cloud offering essentially infinite scale and completely removing the immense burden of IT maintenance, the barrier to entry for innovation has never been lower. So the only question left for you is, with all this immense power at your fingertips, what will you build next? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope you feel fully equipped to navigate the cloud.